In this section, we're going to take a look at activity-based costing. Activity-based costing is a cost refinement method that minimizes cost distortion. When companies use activity-based costing to allocate their indirect costs, what they do is they split up their indirect costs into multiple cost pools. These are called activity cost pools, and the total of these, for example, these 5 cost pools will be their total indirect cost. Remember that manufacturing overhead is just an indirect cost for a manufacturing company. If it's a service company or a merchandising company, it would be called indirect cost and not manufacturing overhead. Remember, when we were looking at departmental allocation rates, what the companies did was split the manufacturing overhead cost into 2 departments. Here, all they're doing it is splitting into multiple activities. And then, I bet you already guessed it, what we do is we calculate predetermined allocation rates for all activities. So here we got 5 activities. We're going to come up with 5 different allocation rates. Going back to the example we've used before for the cookie company, let's assume this time that the cookie company makes cookies, but they've also decided to make cakes. Now, cookies and cakes use resources at a different rate. They use different resources at a different rate. So it would not make sense for us to allocate our overhead cost equally to cookies as well as cakes just based on some simple allocation method. Let's take a look at how each of these products use resources differently. For example, if you take the cake, cakes require more quality control than cookies. Somebody will probably have to look at the cake once or twice to make sure that maybe it's not burned and that it's been frosted correctly, that whatever the customer required is being performed correctly, as opposed to cookies, which you bake them. If they're not burnt, they're good to go. Cakes may require more baking time than cookies. So in this case also, cakes and cookies use up different resources at a different rate. Cookies may use up more space than cakes, so again, we're looking at different resources being used at different rates. Activity-based costing allocates costs based on the amount of resources each job uses. First, let's look at maybe what could be possible cost pools for this particular company. Cost pools could be mixing costs, baking costs, cleaning costs, perhaps quality control costs. What a company would do is if they were just coming up with 4 cost pools, they would assign all their indirect cost or their manufacturing overhead to these 4 cost pools. Then we're going to take a look at calculating allocation rates for these 4 cost pools.